Back now with you here on the KFYR Plus News Desk, and today we're joined by an addiction expert, Amara Durham, to discuss the alarming rise of Bluetoothing, a dangerous drug-sharing practice spreading globally, and its devastating impact on public health, HIV transmission in vulnerable communities, especially in places like Fiji. Welcome to the News Desk, Amara. I appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me and talking about this
You
important topic.
Yes. Can you explain and let the viewers know what Bluetoothing is and how it differs from traditional needle sharing?
Yes. So, Bluetoothing, also known as hotspotting, is when someone will inject themselves with a drug of sorts, and then what we would understand as needle sharing is then handing that needle to someone else to use. Rather, in this hotspotting or Bluetoothing trend, they're withdrawing blood from the first user, handing a blood-laden needle to someone else to then inject themselves with the blood that contains the drug that was just used.
In your opinion, Amara, what drives individuals to engage in such a high risk practice?
It's really the state of affairs with drugs being harder to access and more expensive. Also, for some individuals, clean needles are still not always accessible. You've named some remote regions where this has become a prevalent practice.
Hmm.
People who are in desperate situations will absolutely use desperate measures to get relief from a drug craving. And there's a stigma and fear that drive people away from safe needle programs. So they will result to sharing needles, and in this case, sharing blood to get the high that they need.
How widespread is this, and where are we seeing it emerge most rapidly? I know I mentioned right at the top Fiji, but is it moving to other countries globally?
Well, it's happening in Fiji, in South America, parts of Asia. And so it is moving, but it depends upon the education of a region to understand the true impact of this practice. And the impact is this: we are now undoing all safe needle programming because we are increasing the risk of HIV infection. We are increasing the risk of hepatitis. And this is an incredible risk to society as a whole, as those infections can be spread without needles. So it really is not just an indication of the desperation of intravenous drug users, it is also a signal of the collapse of harm reduction systems.
What's the most immediate health dangers associated with this trend?
I think the most immediate health danger is obviously the use of the substances for the primary and secondary user. So we have the epidemic of fentanyl being laced in these substances. So we risk that. And it's only the smallest trace amounts of fentanyl that can cause sudden death. So that's the immediate. The longer term forecast of risk here is, what does this mean in terms of infectious diseases and the impact that this has in spreading um, all around the world, when there are individuals infected with HIV or with hepatitis, and now we have bodily fluids that could carry. We have blood-borne pathogens that can carry. There is an issue where we are now having to be so alert and watch for systematic failure in testing blood.
Yeah, I was going to say, are there risks beyond HIV? I mean, such as like blood type incompatibility?
Yes, thanks for mentioning that. So we absolutely have a blood type incompatibility that can be an issue, and it depends on the frequency and how much is being used or transmitted from individual to individual. So I appreciate you bringing that up. There's a whole host of issues, and I'm sure I've named only the start.
Yeah. In your opinion, how does desperation or withdrawal override the awareness of these risks?
You know, it's interesting. Some people talk about when they withdraw from substances, they think they're dying. And the reality is, they just want to die. And that causes individuals to make really impulsive decisions that put their lives at risk, in addition to other individuals, unbeknownst to them, at risk as well. So that craving for a substance can override all reasonable mind if individuals even have capacity at that time to have reasonable mind.
Hmm. What harm reduction strategies are most effective in combating this trend of Bluetoothing?
Well, I think the first thing is traditional needle exchange programs. Even though those might not be enough, that's certainly where we need to start. I think that the public health solution needs to include empathy, not punishment, where we really
Hmm.
have an understanding of how desperate people must be feeling to be partaking in something like this. So that's incredibly important, is to meet people where they are and empathize. Hey, if I were in your shoes, I understand this is how I might feel, and here's education to counter that. I think we also need to have widespread testing. We need to have clean supply programs, community outreach, and education, education, education. And if we don't have these things, the problem isn't going to just spread, it will evolve.
As this Bluetoothing continues to spread, what message would you most want policymakers and young people to hear about addiction, harm reduction, and the urgent need for change?
Think the most important thing that I would want people to hear is that the opposite of addiction is connection. Find someone with whom you can talk about what prompts you to need the substances, to have connection in some way that is not by a shared needle or a shared substance, but rather is a sense of emotional intimacy, so that there is a connection and a high that comes from a dopamine rush from being with someone in real life rather than
Hmm.
needing to get that from some synthetic way.
Amara Durham, thank you so much. We appreciate your insights on this very difficult situation of this subject.
Thanks so much for having me.
You got it. 137 now here at the news desk. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back with the day's top news stories next on KFYR Plus.